The war should have ended with victory. The dragons should have been safe, and Violet Sorrengail should have had time to breathe. But at Basgiath War College, peace is just another illusion. In Iron Flame, the second book of Rebecca Yarros's Empyrean series, Violet returns to a world on fire, haunted by the secrets she uncovered and the love that could destroy her. The rebellion is no longer a rumor. The Venin are no longer myths, and the fragile bond between rider and dragon is about to be tested beyond breaking. Lightning burns through the sky. Loyalties fracture. Hearts are forged in flame and betrayal. Tonight, we return to the rider's quadrants, through blood, shadow, and smoke, tracing Violet's journey as she learns what it truly means to stand between life and annihilation. This is Iron Flame, where love defies death, and every choice burns hotter than dragonfire. Part 1. Return to Basgiath. Fire, Blood, and Silence Iron Flame opens immediately after the events of Fourth Wing. Violet Sorrengail is alive, barely, after the catastrophic battle at Aricia, where she discovered the truth. The Empire has been lying for centuries about the Venin, the real enemy threatening their world. The so-called rebellion was never treason but a desperate attempt to stop the wards, magical barriers protecting the continent from collapsing. Now Violet, bonded to Tairn, the mighty black dragon, and Andarna, the young golden dragon who can bend time, finds herself caught between two worlds. The truth she's learned with the rebellion and the empire she's still forced to serve. She's haunted by what she's seen. The Venin's crimson eyes, the destruction of Aricia, and the fact that her brother Brennan is alive, working with the rebellion after being declared dead by her mother and the empire. Xaden Riorson, her bonded lover and commander of the rebel riders, sends her back to Basgiath War College, knowing it's the only way she can infiltrate the heart of the Empire's power and gather information without suspicion. It's a decision that tears both of them apart. She's furious that he's sending her back into danger, and he's terrified that staying would expose them all. They part on strained terms, their bond both physical and emotional, but the weight of secrets sits heavily between them. When Violet returns to Basgiath, she immediately feels the shift in the air. The once familiar college is darker, colder, and more militarized than ever. The Riders' Quadrant has been placed under new leadership. Vice Commandant Varish, a cruel and sadistic officer who uses discipline as a cover for torture. The Commandant, Violet's mother, General Lilith Sorrengail, remains distant, a looming shadow over every rule and punishment. Varish makes it clear from the start that Violet is a target. He hates her for her reputation, for her survival, and for what she represents. A rider bonded to two dragons, including one of the most powerful in existence. He wants to break her, body and mind, and use her as an example of what happens when riders step out of line. Violet's fragile body, still healing from battle, becomes the focus of his cruelty. He increases the rider's physical demands and changes the combat curriculum to brutal extremes. Students are forced to fight until they collapse, and failure results in public lashings or worse. Through it all, Violet refuses to bend. Her strength is not in brute force, but in intellect and endurance. She uses her scribe training to memorize Varish's routines, patterns, and weaknesses. Violet reconnects with her old squad mates, Rhiannon, Rydok, and Sawyer, who have all returned to continue their training. Together, they navigate the tense, fearful atmosphere of Basgiath under Varish's regime. There are also new, first-year cadets, each desperate to survive the Rider Quadrant's deadly initiation. Violet, now a second year, is tasked with helping train them, though she's forbidden to show favoritism or mercy. Meanwhile, the once-rumored Venin threat is still officially classified. The leadership denies their existence entirely, branding anyone who speaks of them as traitors. Violet struggles to keep the truth hidden while protecting her friends from the reality that's coming for them all. Her relationship with Professor Carr, the battle strategy instructor, becomes increasingly complex. He's one of the few teachers who seems to genuinely care about his students' survival, but he's also under scrutiny for his leniency toward Violet. Communication with Xaden is almost impossible. Their dragons can communicate telepathically, but human messages are intercepted or censored. Occasionally, Tairn passes along fragments of Xaden's thoughts, mostly reassurance and warnings to stay alive. Violet misses him fiercely, but refuses to let her feelings weaken her. Instead, she throws herself into training and studying, searching for any scrap of historical evidence in the archives about the wards, the Venin, or the First Rebellion. In secret, she begins compiling coded notes disguised as military analyses. Her scribe instincts return in full force. She's no longer just a soldier, but an undercover historian collecting truths the Empire has buried. Her father's journals, once thought lost, also reappear through rebel contacts. Hidden within them are cryptic clues about the foundation of Navarre, the origins of the wards, and references to something called the Iron Flame, a phrase Violet doesn't yet understand. Varish's hatred for Violet escalates. He senses that she's different, not just because of her dual dragons, but because she refuses to submit to fear. He begins targeting her friends, assigning them impossible drills, and punishing entire squads for her defiance. At one point, he forces Violet into a deadly sparring match against a much larger cadet. When she refuses to yield, he orders the fight to continue past safety limits. Violet wins by sheer will, but collapses afterward, bloodied and broken. Instead of praise, she's dragged to the torture chamber, a disciplinary facility hidden beneath Basgiath, where Varish subjects her to magical interrogation techniques that inflict unbearable pain. He demands to know what she knows about the rebellion and the supposed Venin threat. Violet, half-conscious, refuses to answer. Tairn's rage nearly burns through their bond. Only the dragon's self-control prevents him from torching the entire academy. When she finally returns to her dormitory, her friends are horrified by her condition. Rhiannon tends to her wounds in silence. They all understand that defiance carries a price, but Violet's unbreakable spirit begins to inspire others. The Rider's Quadrant fractures under pressure. Some, terrified of punishment, align themselves with Varish and the Empire's propaganda. Others quietly support Violet, spreading whispers that she's the Stormborn, the rider who will change everything. Her leadership qualities start to emerge more clearly. Despite her injuries, she mentors younger cadets, teaching them strategy and survival rather than blind obedience. Her analytical mind and empathy make her a natural commander, though she resists the title. Meanwhile, Tairn and Andarna's relationship evolves. Tairn grows even more protective, while Andarna's voice becomes more distant. She's aging rapidly, caught in a magical growth phase that makes communication difficult. Violet feels her absence deeply. Andarna was once her closest emotional bond. Without Andarna's ability to slow time, Violet feels more vulnerable in battle simulations, but she compensates by relying on precision and intelligence over brute strength. Reports begin circulating about strange attacks near Navarre's borders, villages disappearing overnight, crops turning to ash, and survivors describing creatures with red eyes. Officially, these are dismissed as rebel raids, but Violet recognizes the signs immediately. Venin attacks. Her attempts to warn her instructors fall on deaf ears. Anyone who mentions Venin risks execution for spreading rebel propaganda. Even Rhiannon urges her to stay quiet, fearing for her safety. In secret, Violet begins sending coded messages to the rebellion, hoping they can mobilize before it's too late. But the channels are unreliable, and Xaden's responses are slow and cryptic. He's clearly fighting his own battles far from Basgiath. Through her bond with Tairn, Violet senses growing unrest among the dragons. They can feel the imbalance in the world's magic, the wards faltering, the venin feeding. Dragons, bound by ancient instincts, are growing restless and volatile. Tairn warns her that something terrible is coming, something bigger than any single rider or war college. Violet's nights are plagued with visions of burning skies and crumbling fortresses, premonitions that seem to echo through her bond with her dragons. When she confronts one of her instructors, hoping for answers, she's told coldly that knowledge is a privilege earned through obedience. One night, Violet receives a secret message smuggled in through Rhiannon's network, bearing her brother Brennan's handwriting. The message confirms that the rebellion is still active and growing. They're working to re-establish the wards using lost magic, but progress is slow. The Venin are multiplying faster than expected, and the Empire's silence is dooming thousands. Brennan also warns her about Varish, that he's not just cruel, but dangerous in ways the Academy doesn't understand. He's experimenting with magical suppression devices, tools designed to weaken dragon bonds or extract information from riders through pain. Brennan's final line chills her. Whatever happens, don't let him find out about Andarna. By the end of this first act, Violet has transformed from the timid, uncertain cadet we met in Fourth Wing into a hardened, quietly rebellious leader. She's endured Varish's torture, outmaneuvered the Academy's politics, and begun piecing together the vast web of lies that hold Navarre together. She knows now that the Empire is not the savior it pretends to be. It's a machine built on ignorance and blood. And though she's isolated, bruised, and burdened with impossible secrets, she's no longer alone. The rebellion burns quietly within her, an iron flame refusing to die. The question is no longer whether she can survive Basgiath. It's whether she can ignite it. Part 2, Training, Secrets, and Rebellion. As the new term settles in, Basgiath War College becomes more like a prison than an academy. The walls feel tighter, the drills harsher, and the scrutiny relentless. Vice Commandant Varish's reach extends everywhere. Every conversation, every classroom, every flight exercise. No one escapes his watch. He institutes a new disciplinary system, assigning punishment flights and forced endurance training designed to push riders to collapse. The infirmary fills daily, and the number of mysterious training accidents grows. Violet quietly begins tracking them, realizing the numbers are far higher than the reports show. Her friends, Rhiannon, Sawyer, and Rydok, form a close inner circle around her. Together, they start protecting weaker cadets from the worst of the cruelty, a small act of rebellion that risks all their lives. Despite the terror, Violet's legend grows. Whispers about the Stormborn, the rider bonded to 2 dragons, spread across Basgiath. Some fear her, some idolize her, but almost everyone watches her. Violet's bond with Tairn deepens. The massive black dragon's power seeps more and more into her. His strength, his confidence, his defiance. His presence in her mind becomes a constant shield against despair. But the connection is volatile. The more she draws on his lightning magic, the more strain her fragile human body endures. Her muscles ache for days after every surge, and her skin sometimes sparks faintly when her emotions spiral. Meanwhile, Andarna's voice becomes fainter. She's entered what dragons call a maturation phase, withdrawing from human contact as she grows. It breaks Violet's heart. Andarna was the most tender part of her soul bond, the voice that gave her calm in the storm. Tairn reassures her that Andarna's withdrawal is temporary, but he also warns that when she returns, she'll be changed. Older, more powerful, and less childlike. Violet takes comfort in the faint golden warmth she still feels through their shared link. Even in silence, Andarna is with her. The academic side of Basgiath is no less dangerous. Professors echo the Empire's rhetoric about loyalty and unity, subtly testing students' beliefs. In her battle tactics class, Violet begins to question the official version of past wars. She points out inconsistencies in the records, missing dates, altered names, impossible victories. Her professor warns her sharply to stop disrespecting history. Instead of backing down, Violet doubles her efforts. She spends every free hour in the archives, studying military journals and forbidden texts. Her scribe training gives her an advantage. She knows how to decode redacted material, how to read between the lines of propaganda. In secret, she begins writing an encrypted ledger of everything she learns, a hidden history of the Empire's lies. One night, the air around Basgiath changes. Dragons grow restless, and the guards double their patrols. Violet feels Tairn's unease through their bond. Someone powerful is nearby. Then, in the shadows outside her window, Xaden Riorson appears. Their reunion is explosive, both emotionally and physically. Violet's anger at him for sending her back collides with her relief that he's alive. They argue, they confess, and finally they just feel a raw collision of love and pain. Xaden reveals that he's been leading missions for the rebellion, while secretly maintaining his post as a wing leader. He's also been smuggling supplies and information out of Basgiath through a network of rebel sympathizers hidden among the cadets and instructors. He warns Violet that Varish is not acting alone, that his authority comes directly from the general command, possibly even her mother. Before he leaves, he gives her a coded charm disguised as a simple trinket, a small dragon-scale pendant that will glow when danger approaches. He tells her, "Trust your instincts, not their orders." Their parting is as painful as their meeting. Duty keeps them apart, but love binds them closer than ever. Violet's defiance begins to take a more organized form. With the help of Rhiannon, Rhydock, and Sawyer, she starts quietly spreading the truth. Small facts, rumors that sound too dangerous to be true but plant doubt nonetheless. They speak of the Venin in whispers, of entire outposts lost to rebels that were actually consumed by dark magic. At first, only a handful of riders believe them, but fear spreads faster than discipline. Soon, even Varish's loyalists start asking questions. Violet begins to see cracks forming in Basgiath's foundation, cadets hesitating to carry out brutal orders, instructors questioning directives, and dragons growing restless during drills. For the first time, the Empire's control seems breakable. Violet's curiosity draws her deeper into the Basgiath archives, an enormous underground library sealed off from most cadets. She gains access through forged credentials, a trick she learned from her scribe training. There, she discovers a section labeled Pre-Navaran History. Most of the pages are torn or blackened, but she finds fragments describing ancient magic, dragon pacts, and the First Venin War. The records reveal that the Venin are not new. They were humans who drained the land's magic to gain power, corrupting themselves in the process. The wards were built to seal them away, but maintaining them required constant reinforcement from dragonkind and bonded riders. When the Empire stopped renewing the wards centuries ago, the Venin began to seep back in. This discovery shakes Violet to her core. Everything the Empire teaches about loyalty, rebellion, and the so-called traitors is a fabrication. The true history has been systematically erased. She copies the passages into her coded journal and vows to share them with Brennan and the rebellion when she can. Varish's cruelty grows bolder. Frustrated by Violet's resilience, he targets her through others. He assigns Rhiannon to a night patrol with a known sadist, then stages an accident that nearly kills her. Violet confronts him publicly, defying protocol. Varish smiles and says, "You can't protect them all." That night, he has her seized and brought to the underground punishment chamber again. He uses a magical artifact to dampen her bond with Tairn, cutting her off from the dragon's protective presence. The pain is unbearable, not just physical, but psychic. Through sheer willpower, Violet resists, breaking free long enough to use Tairn's lightning to shatter the device. When she escapes, half the chamber is scorched, and Varish's face bears a permanent burn mark. Afterward, she's confined to her quarters under the guise of medical recovery. Her friends smuggle her food and bandages, keeping her sane. From that moment on, Violet stops hiding her hatred for Varish. She swears that one day she'll see him fall. The Riders' Quadrant begins to fracture openly. Students start forming secret alliances, some pledging loyalty to Varish, others quietly joining Violet's circle. During one flight exercise, a cadet tries to sabotage Violet's saddle mid-air, hoping to kill her. Tairn reacts faster than thought, snapping the attacker's dragon's wing with a lightning strike. The cadet falls to his death. It's a brutal reminder that in Basgiath, mercy can be fatal. Later, Violet discovers that the saboteur was paid off by one of the general's own aides, proof that the Empire has placed bounties on suspected rebels. The college is no longer just a training ground. It's a battlefield. Weeks pass before Violet sees Xaden again, this time during a joint exercise with wing leaders. His presence ignites the room instantly. Despite the careful mask of professionalism, everyone feels the tension between them. During the training, they're paired together for a simulation that turns unexpectedly real when a Venin ambush interrupts the exercise. A horde of corrupted creatures descends from the clouds, forcing the riders to fight for their lives. Violet channels Tairn's lightning in a massive surge, obliterating half the attackers, while Xaden uses his shadows to shield the survivors. Together, they save dozens of cadets. But afterward, the leadership claims the attack was a rogue rebel incident, denying any mention of Venin. The cover-up enrages both Violet and Xaden, solidifying their determination to expose the truth. That night, they meet in secret again. Their reunion is passionate and raw, but it's shadowed by fear. Xaden admits that the rebellion is struggling. Too few riders, too many losses. He fears that when the wards finally collapse, not even dragons will be enough. Violet promises to find a way. She refuses to let the world burn quietly. Through her father's journals, Violet uncovers more clues about a forgotten concept called the Iron Flame. The text describes it not as a weapon, but as a state of being, an unbreakable will that burns through corruption. The iron flame is the heart's refusal to be consumed. The phrase begins to resonate deeply with her. It becomes a mantra, a promise to herself and to the dragons who trust her. She realizes that her father must have known the truth about the Venin long before his death. His research wasn't treason, it was foresight. And now, it's up to her to finish what he started. By the end of this section, the tension at Basgiath reaches a breaking point. Students vanish overnight. Entire patrols are reassigned with no explanation, and dragons begin to roar restlessly in their sleep. Tairn warns Violet that something massive is moving near the borders, a force of magic so dark that even dragons fear it. Xaden's last message arrives in her mind through their bond. The wards are falling. Whatever happens, hold your line. Violet knows what that means. The Venin are coming, and Basgiath, the heart of the Empire, is about to face its reckoning. Part 3. The Truth of the Wards. After Xaden's warning that the wards are falling, Violet becomes consumed by one mission: to understand why. The nights grow restless at Basgiath War College. Violet wakes to distant rumbling that isn't thunder, the ground trembling as if something vast moves beneath it. The dragons grow more agitated, their eyes glowing brighter in the dark. Tairn confirms her fears. The wards, magical barriers that protect the human lands from the Venin's corruption, are weakening faster than ever. What was once believed to be eternal magic is flickering out across entire regions of Navarre. The Venin are no longer myth. They are returning, in numbers unseen for centuries. But the Empire refuses to admit it. The official story remains that rebels are raiding border villages. Any soldier or rider who claims to have seen Venin is labeled delusional or treasonous. Violet realizes the only way to stop the coming disaster is to uncover the true origin of the wards and how they can be renewed. Violet returns to the archives every night, using her old scribe's skill to bypass locked sections and read censored documents. In one crumbling tome, she discovers references to the first sigil, an ancient magical seal created by dragons and their riders. The wards were not a natural phenomenon. They were constructed through sacrifice, binding dragon and rider life force together in massive ritual circles. To maintain the wards, generations of riders had to renew these bindings. But after the founding of Navarre, the ruling generals declared the Venin extinct and abandoned the rituals. They sealed away the truth, Violet mutters, tracing the faded ink, and damned us all in the process. The final pages of the record are missing, ripped out long ago. But one phrase remains burned into the margin. The iron flame endures. The words strike her like a pulse of lightning. Her father's research, her own bond with Tairn, everything points back to this phrase. Whatever the iron flame truly means, it's the key to restoring the wards. During this time, Violet begins to sense flickers of golden warmth again, faint whispers in her mind that sound like Andarna. Weeks later, she feels a surge of energy through her bond. When she runs to the rider's field, she finds a crowd of dragons gathering, their roars echoing across the cliffs. From the horizon descends Andarna, no longer the small, innocent dragon Violet once knew. Her scales gleam like molten gold, her wings vast and shimmering. She has grown. Tairn lowers his head in respect. She has reached maturity, he says, and she is changed. Andarna's mind touches Violet's, older now, wiser, and far less human. She speaks with the weight of prophecy, her voice echoing across Violet's consciousness. The iron flame burns through corruption. It is not cast, it is born. You must become it. Violet doesn't understand what that means yet, but she feels its truth resonate through her entire body. Andarna's return strengthens her magic enormously. When Violet channels lightning now, the power feels steadier, sharper, as though Tairn's storm and Andarna's light are fusing inside her. But this new power comes with a warning. Andarna senses something ancient stirring beyond the wards. Not just Venin, but something older and hungrier. Reports begin flooding in from the front lines. Outlying villages vanish overnight. Entire dragon patrols go silent, and scouts whisper of armies cloaked in red mist. Violet receives secret correspondence from Brennan, Xaden's brother, who leads one of the rebel outposts. His message is grim. The Venin are attacking in waves now. The wards have failed along the southern line. The dead don't stay dead. Violet takes this news to her instructors, begging them to send reinforcements. But they laugh it off. The official stance remains unchanged. There are no Venin. Her frustration curdles into fury. She sees the same arrogance in them that her mother once showed, the same blindness that cost hundreds of lives. So Violet does what she's always done. She takes matters into her own hands. Violet organizes secret scouting missions under the guise of training exercises. She, Rhiannon, Sawyer, and Rydok fly beyond Basgiath's permitted borders, using Tairn's speed and shadows from Xaden's magic to avoid detection. What they find chills them to the bone. A dozen villages lie in ruins, their soil blackened and lifeless. At the center of each stands a Venin totem, pulsing faintly with red light, a siphoning stone that drains magic from the land itself. When Violet approaches one, Tairn growls, "Do not touch it." She feels the pull instantly, the seductive whisper of endless power. It takes all her will to resist. She realizes the Venin are feeding on the ward's collapse, gaining strength as the barrier weakens. If they succeed, they'll consume every source of life and magic until nothing remains. The only way to stop them is to reignite the wards. But that requires knowledge the Empire has erased. Back at Basgiath, the political situation grows more volatile. Varish's authority begins to falter as rumors of the Venin spread faster than his punishments can silence them. Even some instructors start to waver. Then, an unexpected ally emerges, Professor Kaori, an elderly scholar who once taught Violet's father. He invites her to a private meeting in the archives and shows her a hidden chamber sealed with ancient wards. Inside lie scrolls older than the Empire itself, records of the first dragon riders and their war against the Venin. Kaori explains that the ward's creators foresaw their eventual decay. They left behind a renewal ritual, one that could reignite the Iron Flame if a bonded rider and dragon were willing to sacrifice part of their life force. But to perform the ritual, one needs a catalyst sigil, a symbol of pure, uncorrupted magic. The only known sigil lies in a fortress deep within enemy territory, Samara, the city where the wards first fell. Violet's mission becomes clear. She must reach Samara and bring the sigil back before the Venin consume it entirely. During all this, Violet's relationship with Xaden becomes increasingly strained. He continues to lead rebel missions from outside the walls, refusing to tell her everything. Every time they meet, he's more haunted, his shadows darker, his voice sharper. She senses that he's hiding something terrible. Their arguments often end in silence. Violet wants to trust him completely, but secrets have always been the poison between them. And yet, every time she looks into his eyes, she remembers the boy who risked his life for hers. the man who would burn the world to protect her. When Xaden finally visits Basgiath again, it's under dire circumstances. He's come to warn her. The Venin are amassing for a massive strike. They're coming for Basgiath next, he tells her, and they'll use the fall of the college as a message. He begs her to leave with him, to escape before it's too late. But Violet refuses. If Basgiath falls, every rider in Navarre dies. I won't abandon them. They part again, lovers bound by war, torn apart by duty. Violet finally convinces a small group of riders to accompany her on a training mission to the ruined city of Samara, hoping to find the Catalyst sigil. The journey is perilous. They encounter skies thick with red mist, the Venin's energy distorting the weather itself. When they reach Samara, they find it reduced to black stone and silence, the entire city drained of life. In the heart of the ruins stands an ancient tower, carved with dragon runes. Inside, Violet finds what she's been searching for, a sigil glowing faintly beneath centuries of dust. But before she can claim it, the Venin attack. Hundreds of them pour from the shadows, their eyes blazing red. At their head stands a Venin general, radiating power so intense it cracks the ground beneath his feet. The battle is brutal. Riders fall from the sky. Dragons roar in agony, and Violet channels everything she has, Tairn's lightning, Andarna's golden flame, her own will, into one devastating surge. The sigil absorbs the blast, flaring brilliantly before collapsing into her hands, branded into her skin. When the smoke clears, half her squad lies dead, but Samara's ruins are still standing. Violet realizes she's changed. Her veins hum with new magic, wild, burning, alive. She doesn't fully understand it, but she knows one thing. The Iron Flame is no longer just an idea. It's inside her. When Violet returns to Basgiath, she is no longer the same woman who left. Her power frightens the leadership, and even some of her friends. Varish confronts her, again, accusing her of treason and consorting with rebels. But before he can act, Tairn roars from the sky, shaking the entire college. The dragons have chosen their side, and it's not the Empire's. In the chaos, Violet looks at the students around her, the young riders who have seen too much, lost too much, and still choose to fight. She knows that the time for secrecy is over. It's time to choose between obedience and truth. We are the flame, she tells them quietly, and they can't cage fire. Part 4. Love, Loyalty, and Loss. Violet's return from Samara sends shockwaves through Basgiath War College. She's alive, but barely. The battle scars on her body are nothing compared to what's changed inside her. The sigil now branded into her palm glows faintly, pulsing with energy. Whispers ripple through the ranks. Some call her a hero. Others call her cursed. When she channels lightning in combat class and the energy doesn't dissipate, instead burning brighter, hotter, alive, her instructor recoils in awe. Her power has transformed into something beyond the limits of a typical rider's bond. Only Tairn and Andarna truly understand what's happened. Violet has become a living conduit of both dragon's magic, fused with the Iron Flame itself. But power always comes with a price. Every time she uses her new ability, it eats away at her physical strength, leaving her faint, trembling, and dangerously close to collapse. The Navarran government cannot ignore Violet anymore. News of the battle at Samara spreads quickly, though twisted by propaganda. The Empire declares her actions unauthorized, claiming she endangered fellow riders and violated Imperial protocol. Vice Commandant Varish seizes the moment to tighten his control. He calls a public tribunal, accusing Violet of insubordination and treason. The trial is a spectacle, a warning to every cadet. But Violet refuses to back down. When he demands that she renounce her sympathy for rebels, she responds coldly, "You can't rebel against a lie." Her words ignite the hall. Half the students rise to their feet, shouting their support. Varish's face twists with rage, but before he can order her punishment, the dragons outside roar in unison, Tairn and Andarna hovering above the courtyard, their fury palpable. Varish knows better than to defy dragonkind in front of witnesses. The tribunal dissolves in chaos, but the damage is done. Basgiath is no longer a school. It's a battlefield of ideology. In the days that follow, Violet and Xaden's relationship grows increasingly strained. Xaden returns briefly to Basgiath, his eyes shadowed, literally. His power has deepened, his connection to darkness so potent that even the light around him bends. Violet senses something is wrong. He avoids her questions, insisting he's handling it, but she knows better. She's seen what happens when power consumes a rider, and his shadows feel tainted. They argue fiercely one night in the rider's hall. Violet accuses him of keeping secrets again, of trusting her only when it's convenient. "You told me we'd fight together," she says. "But every time I reach for you, you vanish into the dark." "I'm trying to keep you alive," he snaps. "If you knew what I've done." "Then tell me," she demands. "I can't," he whispers. That moment marks the beginning of the deepest rift between them. Eventually, the truth comes out, and it devastates her. Xaden confesses that during one of his missions beyond the wards, he was mortally wounded by a Venin, his life force fading. To save him, a dragon bound him with shadow magic, the same ancient energy the Venin corrupts. In other words, Xaden is becoming what he hates most. Violet's breath leaves her. The man she loves, the one she thought unbreakable, now carries the same corruption that destroyed thousands. "I didn't choose this," Xaden says quietly, "but I'll use whatever I am to protect you, even if it damns me." Violet wants to deny it, but when she looks closer, she sees it. Faint veins of red light pulsing in his shadows. The mark of Venin corruption. The realization shatters her. Everything she's fought for, truth, loyalty, love, blurs together. Still, her heart refuses to let go. "You're not one of them," she tells him. "You're still you." But Xaden only looks away. For now. Meanwhile, the rebellion is losing ground. Violet receives encrypted updates from Brennan and Imogen, another key leader, describing villages falling one after another. The Venin are moving faster than anyone predicted, draining the land's magic, raising armies of corpses, and overwhelming every stronghold they encounter. The rebellion's only hope is to reinforce the remaining ward points, but they're out of time and resources. Violet knows the sigil she carries might be the key, but activating it would require the same sacrificial ritual described in the archives, one that could kill her. When she tells Xaden this, he's furious. "You're not dying for them. Not for this." "If I don't, everyone dies," she replies, "including you." Their argument ends with no resolution, just heartbreak. The tension reaches its peak when the Venin finally make their move. The attack begins at dawn. The sky turns crimson as waves of corrupted soldiers march from the eastern hills, red mist rising behind them like smoke. The wards around Basgiath shatter audibly, a sound like glass breaking across the sky. Varish scrambles to organize a defense, barking orders that make no sense. The dragons refuse to obey him, listening only to their riders. Chaos erupts. Violet mounts Tairn and soars into the sky, lightning crackling at her fingertips. The battle below is carnage, fire, shadow, blood. Riders fall in droves, venin surging through the gates. Through the bond, she hears Xaden's voice. "I'm coming. Hold your line." He arrives moments later, his shadows cutting through the venin like living blades. Together, they fight back to back, storm and shadow intertwined. It's the first time they've truly fought as one, but for every venin they destroy, two more rise. In the chaos, Varish corners Violet in the shattered courtyard. He accuses her of causing the invasion, of bringing the venin to Basgiath through her corrupt magic. She tries to reason with him, but he draws a weapon infused with venin energy, proof that he's been colluding with them all along. "The Empire needs control, not chaos," he hisses. "You and your dragons are the chaos." Before he can strike, Tairn's roar splits the sky. Violet channels her power one final time, merging Tairn's lightning and Andarna's golden fire into a single blinding surge. The blast consumes Varish completely. When the light fades, nothing remains of him but scorched stone. Basgiath's greatest tormentor is dead, but victory tastes like ash, because the battle is far from over. As night falls, the college is engulfed in fire. The venin breach the final defenses, their magic turning the air thick and unbreathable. Dragons are dying, screaming in pain as their life force is drained. Violet realizes that the only way to save them is to reactivate the ward beneath Basgiath itself, an ancient barrier that once protected the entire region. The sigil on her hand pulses violently, reacting to the venin's proximity. It's time. Xaden senses her plan through their bond and rushes to stop her. "If you do this, you'll burn out. You'll die. If I don't, they will." They argue through tears, but Violet doesn't hesitate. She channels every ounce of her energy into the sigil, feeling it ignite like molten metal under her skin. Tairn roars, Andarna's golden wings flare, and for a moment, the world turns white. The Iron Flame bursts outward, a storm of lightning and fire that obliterates the Venin army and reactivates the ancient ward. When the light fades, the battlefield is silent. The Venin are gone. Basgiath still stands, barely, but Violet collapses, her life force nearly spent. Xaden finds her among the ruins, her body weak, the sigil still glowing faintly. He holds her, begging her to stay with him. "I told you I'd protect you," he whispers, voice breaking. "You did," she murmurs. "Now it's my turn." Before she can say more, a ripple of red light flickers across Xaden's body. His corruption has worsened. The venin energy inside him responds to the weakened ward, twisting his magic violently. He jerks away, screaming, as shadows explode around him. Violet tries to reach him, but Andarna's voice cuts through the chaos. He is no longer fully human. In horror, Violet watches as Xaden's eyes flare crimson. Not entirely venin, but no longer the man she knew. He stares at her one last time. "Run," he says, and vanishes into the night. When Violet wakes, days have passed. The surviving riders have retreated to a nearby rebel outpost, led by Brennan. Basgiath lies in ruins, the Empire's forces scattered. She's weak but alive, her power unstable. The sigil no longer burns. It thrums, as if something inside it is waiting to awaken again. Brennan explains that Xaden disappeared after the battle. No one knows where he is, only that Venin have been spotted further north, and their leader's description matches him. Violet refuses to believe he's gone. He's fighting it, she insists. He has to be. Brennan doesn't argue. He simply looks at her hand, at the faint light still pulsing there, and says, "Then we'd better find a way to save him, before the iron flame consumes us all." Part 5. The Ashes and the Iron Flame. The destruction of Basgiath marks a turning point, not just for Violet Sorrengail, but for the entire world. The once proud military academy now stands as a graveyard, a monument to arrogance and ignorance. The rebellion, fractured but alive, gathers what remains of its forces among the mountain strongholds and hidden sanctuaries once thought long abandoned. Violet wakes in one of these outposts, surrounded by the faint hum of dragon wards and the ever-present reminder that everything she once believed in is gone. Her body is weak, her magic unstable. The sigil burned into her palm no longer glows violently but pulses rhythmically, as if connected to some deeper source. The dragons, Tairn and Andarna, remain close, guarding her constantly, their bond with her stronger than ever. Through them, she begins to understand what has happened. Her act of unleashing the iron flame did more than repel the venin. It awakened something ancient within her, binding her magic to the life force of the dragons themselves. In the days following the battle, the rebellion takes stock of its position. The Venin have retreated for now, but their victory is only temporary. Villages have been razed, and the protective wards across Navarre are either shattered or unstable. Brennan, Violet's brother, assumes leadership over the fractured rebel forces, organizing scouts to track both Venin movements and the scattered survivors of Basgiath. Many riders have joined them, having seen firsthand the corruption within the Empire's command. Others, however, remain loyal to the old order, convinced that the rebellion's defiance caused the catastrophe. Violet spends much of this time in recovery and reflection. She replays the battle in her mind endlessly, the screams of dragons, the red mist of Venin magic, and the blinding flare of her own lightning. She knows she destroyed Varish, but the cost haunts her. Hundreds died, and among the ruins she lost Xaden. His absence becomes a wound she cannot close. Rumors spread quickly. Some claim Xaden was killed during the final surge of the Iron Flame. Others whisper that he was seen leading Venin forces to the north. None of these stories bring her comfort. Through her bond with Tairn, she can sometimes feel traces of his presence, a shadow on the edge of consciousness, a flicker of darkness that reminds her he is still alive. But what he has become, she cannot be sure. As she regains her strength, Violet begins to study the ancient texts recovered from the ruins of the archives. These fragmented records describe the origins of the Venin and their connection to dragonkind. Long ago, before the first wards were raised, humans and dragons shared magic freely. But as human greed grew, some sought to draw magic directly from the earth, bypassing the dragons entirely. This act twisted their essence, turning them into Venin, beings sustained by consuming life force rather than sharing it. The wards were created to seal away this corruption, but as generations passed, knowledge of that truth was erased. Violet realizes that the Empire's entire foundation rests on a lie. The wardstones and their magic are not divine gifts or inventions of human genius. They are the last remnants of an ancient pact between dragons and riders, designed to contain the Venin's hunger. By suppressing the truth, the Empire not only betrayed dragonkind, but ensured that history would repeat itself. While Violet wrestles with this revelation, the rebellion faces mounting internal division. Some members advocate retreat and secrecy, believing that survival must take precedence over confrontation. Others, like Brennan and Imogen, argue that the rebellion must strike before the Venin regroup. Violet stands between these factions, understanding both their fear and their urgency. She knows that every moment of hesitation gives the Venin more power. Despite her lingering exhaustion, Violet trains relentlessly. Her lightning has changed since the Iron Flame. It is purer, heavier, and capable of merging with dragonfire. Yet each use drains her dangerously, the cost of channeling forces meant for creatures far older than humankind. Andarna, now fully matured into a formidable dragon of gold and silver scales, offers her wisdom. The young dragon's understanding of magic surpasses even Tairn's, hinting that Andarna herself may be linked to the original creation of the wards. As the days pass, the rebellion uncovers grim evidence of what the Venin have been doing. Entire regions north of Navarre have been consumed, their landscapes turned into barren wastelands devoid of life. The Venin's leader, a figure shrouded in red fire, has begun gathering both human defectors and corrupted riders under his command. The scouts return one night with a chilling report. The Venin leader bears shadows that move like living things, and his eyes burn not just red, but a deep, unnatural black. The description leaves no doubt. It is Xaden Riorson. The news devastates Violet, but also steals her resolve. She refuses to believe that the man she loved has fully surrendered to the corruption. The bond between them, faint though it is, still flickers. She becomes convinced that if she can reach him, she might pull him back before the Venin power consumes him completely. Brennan warns her against it, reminding her of what happened when others tried to save those marked by Venin energy. None have survived. Yet Violet insists. She believes that her connection through both dragons and through the Iron Flame may give her the power to resist the corruption. As she prepares to leave, the rebellion braces for an inevitable war. Messages arrive from across the continent, describing strange natural phenomena. Storms that never end, rivers that boil, mountains that weep black ash. The world itself seems to be reacting to the resurgence of Venin power. Dragons grow restless, and some even refuse to bond with new riders, as if sensing a coming extinction. Violet's final days in the rebel stronghold are marked by haunting dreams. In them, she sees Xaden standing amid fire and shadow, his expression torn between agony and fury. Each time she reaches for him, he fades further away. She wakes each morning with a single thought: she will not lose him again. Before her departure, she and Brennan uncover a sealed chamber beneath the outpost. Inside lies an ancient map etched with sigils that mirror the one on Violet's palm. The symbols correspond to the lost ward stones across the continent. Brennan believes these sites hold the key to restoring the full network of protection. But doing so will require immense power, perhaps even more than Violet can safely wield. Together, they make a plan. Brennan will lead the rebellion in gathering allies and securing the ward sites, while Violet will search for Xaden, whose corruption may hold both the key to their salvation and their destruction. As she mounts Tairn once more, she feels the familiar rush of wind and lightning. The mountains stretch out before her, the horizon glowing faintly with the Iron Flame's energy. Andarna flies beside them, her golden wings a beacon in the storm. Violet knows the path ahead will test everything she is: rider, daughter, lover, and warrior. The novel closes on a haunting image. Far to the north, amid a ruined fortress surrounded by dying earth, Xaden stands alone. His body is wreathed in shadow, but his face is human, for now. He gazes toward the south, where lightning flashes across the distant mountains. Though corrupted, some part of him still remembers. In that same moment, Violet feels a spark of connection through their bond. It is weak, almost imperceptible, but it carries a single emotion: recognition. She understands then that the man she loves is still fighting within the darkness, and that their destinies are now inseparable. The final paragraphs return to Violet's perspective as she resolves to master the Iron Flame fully. The rebellion will need her power, but more importantly, Xaden will need her strength. The story ends with the promise of another war, not just against the Venin, but against the corruption consuming the very heart of magic itself. Violet Sorrengail, once a fragile scholar thrust into the Rider's world, now stands as the last hope of balance between light and shadow, love and ruin. The iron flame within her burns on, its glow both a blessing and a curse, lighting the path toward a future that may yet destroy her, or save them all.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos.